Happy New Year in advance. 2024 is going to be the year in which geopolitics significantly impacts on business. If you're running a business that's at the scale up stage, operating across different markets, you would want to pay attention to geopolitics. Geopolitics is essentially the politics of nations, how nations deal with one another. The significant geopolitical headwinds we're heading forward to into next year obviously continues to remain the US China rift, but other significant geopolitical risks that continue to also play include the Russian Ukraine war, includes the various wars across Africa, and also the ways different African entrepreneurs, such as Nigerians, are perceived by East Africans, for example. Geopolitical challenges would be significant in terms of how businesses should begin to plan for the year coming. I took this class at the Harvard Business School with a professor known as Jeremy Friedman. It's titled Business and Geopolitics. And the class essentially talks about what businesses should do in terms of managing geopolitical risk. And the professor comes from a background in East European studies and socialism. And so he was hired because HBS wanted a professor that could expose the business students to Eastern Europe and Russia. And in the class, we studied the history of socialism and the evolution of socialism and how different nations have been able to expand their say in the global affairs of the world. For example, the Americans have become much more powerful economically over the last 200 years. It wasn't always the case. 500 years ago, the major trading nations was the UK, the Spanish, the Portuguese, and the Dutch. But over time, we've seen that as different countries have been able to expand their military interest, they've also been able to expand their business interest as well. In exploration of the various geopolitical powers of various countries, we realized that ultimately countries that have military power are able to corner the resources of the world for their own interests. And somehow they co-opt the businesses in pursuit of those interests. There's not really a very big separation in superpower talk between the interests of the country and the interests of businesses. Usually, businesses need to align their own commercial interests to be in tune with the national geopolitical interests of the countries that they come from. So one of the cases we studied, for example, was how was it that it was possible for American businesses back in the late 1800s, early 1900s to provide capital to Soviet enterprises, even though it was very clearly stated intention of the Soviets to dismantle capitalism. And then how was it that that sort of non-commercial alignment with American geopolitical interest was cut down on, and the geopolitical interest of the US now became paramount? And what were the lessons that businesses should take in terms of this sort of approach? Ultimately, in the exploration of this class, what we have understood is that businesses cannot usually toe the line outside of what the geopolitical interest is of their political elite. So it is very important for businesses to engage with their politicians, understand where it is that the politicians want to go, engage with them on a routine basis, either as a business chamber or through lobbyists. And even if they were trying to change the geopolitical interest of the country to align with their own interest, it has to be something that they are actively pursuing and not waiting to get the government to revert them back to line, right? So these are the important things to take forward as business leaders in 2024. Understand what it is that your country's position is in the world. understand what it is that they are pushing forward in terms of their own geopolitical interest, understand how to align your business to be in tune with that, and actively, in a proactive manner, engage with the politicians so as to ensure that the policies that they have put forward favor your business. In this period, one of the biggest geopolitical concerns right now is the issue of Palestine and Israel. And we've seen some business leaders who have put themselves forward on a moral basis to support either side, and who have faced the consequences of doing that. Uh, it's very important for you as a business leader to think about what is my position morally and what is my position commercially, and how do I make sure that both of them align. But ultimately, as business people, the sort of powers that we really have is really what our politicians allow us to get away with. So it's important to align ourselves with what the government of the day wants, what the geopolitical interest of the day is, and then move forward with that in mind. As a Nigerian entrepreneur, when I was scaling my business into East Africa, one of the major issues that I faced in that part was the reputation that Nigerians had in that part of the continent. And so it was a geopolitical risk that we had to deal with, or a reputational risk that we had to deal with. And we were very, very active in terms of how we went about doing it. In a very pragmatic way, getting the right set of people that the locals there could trust to run the businesses. So scaling the business internationally is not an easy, it's not a walk in the park. There are specific reputational as well as geopolitical risks that business leaders need to be aware about, and need to be pragmatic in terms of how they go about solving those issues. So I'm happy to hear what your thoughts are. What do you see as the role of businesses in terms of geopolitics? Should we follow the role of government, or should we be trying to influence government to toe a specific line as we see fit? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you. If you're running a small business in the pharmacy space in Africa, you should be working with Arexol. Arexol is building a square slash toast type platform for small business pharmacies in Nigeria, Kenya, and Uganda. They provide you software that digitizes and automates your entire pharmacy operation, enabling you to collect payments through their POS terminals, as well as to check the quality of medications before you sell them. They even give you a debit card with which you can use to make payments at your vendor points. On top of that, they offer you a telemedicine feature that enables the patients who walk into your store get access to doctors, and you earn money when they talk to those doctors. And they enable you provide medications to patients on their private health insurance, and you can get up to 75% margins on those medications. Finally, they give you up to $10,000 in financing to buy stock for your business. If you're not currently working with them, you should definitely reach out to them right now. Get your pen and paper and type and write www.rxsol.net and reach out to them. You can also contact them through info@rxsol.net. This is one of the biggest ways to grow your business in this new year.